engineering, did you?
Not all of it, but more than half.
So can we take the other $5,000 that's left and allocate it to some other barber project? No? You're laughing at me? We could spend $5,000 on other beautification things on San Carlos.
Well, I could get it out. So we're in? Good? Looks like it.
And Rob, you're able to get the,
Yeah, if someone can share the screen.
so Yvette, you can share screens now?
I think she gave host to Brandon, so I think he can do it, right?
This screen?
There's my laptop here.
We want Rob to show the Google Maps for the different
Sebastian
sites.
should be making you a co-host now.
Okay.
See if you'll be the MC.
Oh, you want me to MC again?
Yeah,
All right.
that's because you got the badge.
Oh, is that, okay.
I shouldn't say that on the camera.
I think we're up and running, right? Yeah, we should talk into our microphones so that Dale can hear us as our one person in the audience.
All right, I am going to call to order Traffic Safety Committee for the Carmel-by-the-Sea. It's for Thursday, November 10th. It is now 11:34. We apologize. We're having some technical difficulties, so hopefully this is going to go just fine. So
Roll call.
let's go to roll call. Roll call.
Yvette?
Chief Ward,
Here.
Brandon Swanson,
Here.
Bob Harari,
Here.
Okay, we're going to go to section 2, public comment. This is the time provided so that persons may speak to the committee on any item not on the agenda. Please keep your remarks to a maximum of 3 minutes. Be mindful that the committee cannot act on items that are not included on the agenda. Do we have anybody here that wants to talk? Dale. Mr. Burns.
Dale Byrne, thank you. Each time these meetings are announced just a couple of days before the meeting, I'm surprised that they aren't listed in the Carmel meetings page of the city's website like commissions. Most people have no idea they're happening, and they seem to be held at odd and changing times, including this one, which is when most people are having lunch. Couldn't we just say that they'll be held the second Tuesday at the beginning of every quarter or something like that? Just a suggestion, just to make it more convenient. Some of you may not know that Carmel Cares, whose mission is currently to keep Carmel beautiful, safe, and inviting, was actually started as a traffic calming initiative. After being educated by Chief Tomasi and Commander Powell on traffic calming initiatives previously undertaken by the city, we used a handheld radar device to do traffic engineering studies in San Carlos between 9th and 12th. One spot I took the measurements was a bus stop that's being discussed later in this meeting. We were successful in getting a stop sign at 9th and San Carlos, but later traffic studies discovered that cars were actually going faster 50 feet south after the stop sign was installed, and cars were going through the stop sign without stopping. In the end, it was a successful thing, and it's settled down, and it's good. We later did the same kind of study with cars on Junipero just south of 12th. It's clear that putting these stop signs wasn't going to slow people down, and doing ride-alongs with the police department showed me that our officers couldn't do it either. So we started a campaign to educate people about being mindful in the village by putting Carmel Cares branded inserts into restaurant bill presenters like this, and there's about 20 of them around town. There are mindful messages, which includes, in this case, walk whenever you're able, be an alert and courteous pedestrian, set the pace by driving slowly and quietly, and so on. It turns out they're really popular with the employees, so that's one of the benefits, is the employees are reading these things and behaving better, we hope. But also visitors look at them. Thousands of people a week see this, and the only cost is my time and some paper and lamination. Shortly after the last presentation to the council that I made, the city invested in a device to record the speed of every car, so there's no need to do the studies anymore, but I trust the city is doing something similar. Related to that, I'm going to shorten this. We've been spending a lot of time at 4th between Monteverde and San Antonio, and that, as you know, it's a windy, dangerous, narrow street, and we've probably spent 160 hours there and seen a lot. We've cleared some of the shrubbery that was blocking the intersections, but it's still a problem, and I was hoping that maybe the city, if they haven't, could put that device there and start recording what's going on. It seems to be a cut through a lot of times for kids coming from high school going back to Pebble. So that would be a good thing, I think, to look at, and if you have the data, I'd love to see it. Margaret and I are now living at San Antonio, 2 southeast of 13th. It's a pretty busy thoroughfare as well, lots of heavy traffic, lots of heavy equipment and construction going on. Cars are all the time blowing through that stop sign. Last night we were getting finished with our walk. We were walking across the street, and a Tesla, went right through the stop sign without even slowing down. And I don't think they're bad people. I think they just aren't seeing the stop sign because there's things parked. From a distance, you can't see the lines, and those lines are pretty good. I've asked a couple times, could we put stop on the street on intersections like that to make sure that people are seeing there's really a stop sign coming up? I think that's probably a small price to pay. In addition, I know that we're doing a reasonable job of it, but the white lines at some cases like Monteverde and 9th down here are almost not visible. And I know we have a team that goes out and does that, but I think we might want to redouble our efforts for that, because it just takes one time for somebody to get killed going through those stop signs. Finally, there's a bump out on Lincoln, just the next blocks down, and it's just dirt. It's ugly. We probably should have cleaned it up as a Carmel Cares project, but we haven't. But it's in the middle of a parking spot. People end up backing onto it in order to park, and I don't see why we just don't take it out and pave it, move the sign that's on it to the sidewalk. I would suggest that we do that. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Dale. I don't see anybody else here. Is there anybody out in Zoom land, as the mayor likes to say, that would like to speak on something that is not on the agenda? I don't see any hands up. You see anything? So we'll close the public comment. There are no presentations, and so we'll move to item number 4, old business, which is a second review of resident request for a speed reduction along Torres between Ocean and 6th to discourage the use of Torres as a shortcut. And second review of the effectiveness of a stop-controlled intersection at Junipero Street and 7th, including the initial pedestrian crosswalk across 7th Avenue in the west leg of the intersection. So to item A. Bob, do you wanna
I guess I could
be
kick
the
this
first?
off. Thank you, Chief. My understanding is that police did a traffic speed study recently, and we found that there was not a speeding problem along that segment of roadway. Perhaps, Chief, you have these statistics with you?
I did not bring them. We emailed them to the members of the committee for review, and we can certainly post them or put them in the record. But
I believe it's posted at 25 miles an hour.
And
the average speed was under 15.
Correct, with the highest speed being 20. So
high speed being 20, right?
And so that was a 2-week period.
Right. So I believe, if going back in time to the last meeting, the applicant was attempting to reduce the speed to prevent drivers from bypassing, I guess, Junipero or using Torres to bypass Junipero, and with speed reduction would be the deterrent, but we don't have a speeding problem there. So although when we did go out in the field the other day, we did see that there is room for improvement on trimming the vegetation on the trees at the northeast corner of Ocean and Torres. So I think that would help the situation from a safety perspective, from driver visibility. But I don't see the need to do any additional traffic calming or speed reduction measures along that section of Torres. Perhaps the applicant is here.
Hi,
to
yes, I am. This is Kathleen Ryan. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Oh, good. Sometimes I have technical problems. Thank you for doing the study. I saw the radar was installed by Surf and Sand there. And again, my main concern is for like the students that cross Ocean Avenue right at Torres from the high school around, anywhere from 2:30 to 3:30, and they're in the middle of the street. And again, the radar, I think it reflects the numerical speed, but when you're actually standing out in the middle of the street, a car coming at you, even at 15 miles an hour, seems pretty fast. And I noticed this year there's more students using skateboards, and, it's just a concern. But I guess if, the numbers don't reflect what I see, and, when I stand in the street and I see the young people there, I guess there's nothing to be done. But I'm very happy that the vegetation will be trimmed and cleared to help the visibility. So thank you again, Chief Allen, for, installing the radar device and doing a study.
Well, thank you. And we were going to comment. I had a chance to go out and meet with these folks and really discuss the concern. And,
Yeah.
and it was really the idea. When I saw it was more of this issue with the kids being on the roadway and then people turning from Ocean onto Torres and not being able to see them standing in the roadway, to where I think Bob mentioned what I saw really was a need to improve the visibility onto Torres from Ocean, because there is some overgrowth that comes almost onto Ocean, so it does make that almost a blind corner. If there are kids, I actually saw kids crossing in the roadway at one point, so I saw exactly what you described just the other day, as a matter of fact. So if they are in the middle of the roadway, which I saw them, they were in the middle of the roadway, and someone turns a blind corner, they could be in trouble being where they're not supposed to be. So.
Are there any other public comments on this item?
Is there anybody else out there that would like to speak on this particular issue? Brandon?
If you're closing the public comment, I don't really have much to say. I agree with what you guys have said. You're both, far more proficient in the traffic world than I am. But based on our visit and what I've heard in the survey, I'm supportive of just doing the vegetation removal at this point.
Okay.
So I'll make a motion that we trim the vegetation and do no other speed reduction measures at this time, and simply continue to monitor this segment of street. We have a second.
Okay, I'll second that.
Okay.
You want to call for the roll?
Yeah, let's call it. All in favor, trimming the vegetation on Ocean to open up the visibility onto Torres?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Go to item B and open up for public comment. The second review is the effectiveness of the stop-controlled intersection at Junipero Street and 7th Avenue, including the initial pedestrian crosswalk across 7th Avenue and the west leg of the intersection. Is there anybody that would like to speak?
Chief, can I suggest maybe just start with maybe either Bob or Rob or somebody just giving a quick overview of what this item is?
Yeah.
That might be good.
Sure, I can give a little bit of background. Okay, so several months ago, the Traffic Safety Committee recommended making this intersection a stop-controlled intersection. So three-way stop, so we added stop signs for southbound Junipero and northbound Junipero. That was approved by the City Council. When we put that into effect several months ago, we added a crosswalk across the south leg of the street, across Junipero. We put a temporary ADA ramp on the east side. That's going to be converted to a permanent ramp one of these days. That was kind of phase one. It seemed to be successful. There were a couple of very minor fender benders when the new stop signs went into effect, but it was very, very minor. It seemed to be overall successful and safer. Phase two was to, well, let me back up. Phase one included pushing the stop sign on eastbound 7th out further into the intersection so that you could see southbound, you have better visibility both both southbound and northbound traffic. However, moving that stop sign further out into the intersection, which was overall safer, resulted in a pedestrian crosswalk from the east side of Carmel Plaza across 7th onto the existing sidewalk. So it was a little bit of an unusual circumstance where we have so-called mid-block crossing, even though it's very close to the stop sign. But vehicles could stop at the stop sign, which would be after the crossing path. So that's where we left it at the last Traffic Safety Committee meeting. At that meeting, we suggested that let's put in temporary striping of that crosswalk to improve it. It's not a perfect solution, it's a better solution. So since then, we did install the temporary crosswalk with two signs. That's a pedestrian crossing. And that seemed to have been a great success. I've heard of no incidents, no accidents, no concerns, no comments. And we went out there the other day to look at it. It seemed to be working fantastic. So that's kind of the history of the project and where it stands today. But we're here today to kind of wrap up the project and seek any public input.
Thank you, Bob. Is there anybody out there that would like to make a comment on this issue?
Yes, I would. This is Michael Jones. I am one of the few full-time residents on Junipero. So I want to commend the committee for what they've done here. It was much needed, much overdue. Having grandchildren, we can now safely cross the street and go to the plaza in different places. And so we're very, very appreciative of all the work that's been done. The nice bit of beautification you did on the island was great as well as part of that. The only thing that's still outstanding, and it seems to be a common theme within the city, is this issue of the speed issues. The traffic signs, the stop signs have helped a little bit, but at the end of the day, when people are leaving Carmel to get to wherever they're going to go, they round the corner at 8, they gun it to 7th, and of course, with that little rise, not everybody is always slowing down when they get to the stop sign. So if you're crossing when they're coming, it gives you pause before you proceed. So it's anecdotal. You know, I've got my own little radar gun. I go out and check it occasionally. I haven't done it lately. But I think that would be one thing worth looking at going forward. But otherwise, absolutely 100% support everything you've done.
Well, thank you. Is there anybody else who would like to speak on this item? All right, with no one, we'll close it. I don't think we need to make any
Well, I have one. Can I make one comment just really quick?
Absolutely.
I just want to note that other improvements we did there was the turn lane, heading right, specifically not a turn lane, but putting arrows in the street so that people weren't using the parking spots to hang a right there. But I did have a question. I know we had talked at one point about doing a bulb out there at the end of the parking spots. Is that something we still are going to endeavor to do, or do we feel comfortable with how it is right now?
That should be a future capital project at a later date, but it also impacts some of the drainage and the bulb out.
Yeah.
And so it's not a simple little fix, but yes, it should be done.
Okay.
It could enhance beautification as well. It could enhance safety. It's just not really part of this particular project, which was the stop controlled intersection.
Okay, so this project is effectively
an add-on
done.
project.
It sounds like this project is effectively done. We're all happy with it, but then you're going to add something to maybe the CIP to do that.
Let me take it back. We do have a funded capital project called Concrete Street Repairs, which includes converting the asphalt temporary ramp on the east side of that crosswalk across Junipero into a permanent concrete ADA ramp and the bulb out. I believe the consultant that we're about to hire is going to do an initial concept only of this the bulb out over here at the northwest corner of 7th and Junipero. As a concept, we don't really have funding for construction, but at least we'll have a game plan, and then we can put that concept into a future capital improvement plan and hopefully get it funded one of these days.
Okay, thanks. I didn't mean to belabor it, but overall, I'm just thrilled with how this project turned out. I think it was a really good example of how this committee and the city council and the public are all supposed to work together to solve traffic safety issues, which is what we're here for.
Thank you. I don't have any other comment other than I drive by there every day. I make it a point, and it does really seem to be working
Yeah.
well. Because, as you know, not to restate it, but my biggest concern was the pedestrians once that stop sign got pushed. And it really looks like it's taking care of itself with the striping. So, thank you. All right, so off of old business onto discussion items. We'll move to item A, which is Northeast Junipero Street and 4th Avenue and Northeast San Carlos Street and 9th Avenue. We're going to consider a request from the Monterey Salinas Transit to remove a total of 4 parking stalls in front of 2 of the bus stops at those locations. Is there anybody that would like to speak on these items?
Are you going to the public?
Hi.
No, Chief?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I couldn't figure out how to raise my hand on here. This is Christina Di Maria from the Carmel Women's Club, and we're right across the street on San Carlos and 9th. And I'm just curious what the backstory is on this, why they want to take away 2 of those parking spots.
So that maybe Chief, if we want, maybe we want to back up just a quick second, let Bob do another sort of preamble, like what this item's about. Since you did such a good job last time, Bob.
Oh, gosh.
And I don't want
Stakes
to
are high.
Yeah.
I see that the applicant is MST in this case. We do have Michelle Overmeyer is on the call on the Zoom world, and I think it might be most appropriate for her to kind of give an overview of how this issue came to be. I can say this was on the agenda at our last meeting. The scope expanded a bit. It was going to be Junipero at 4th. Just the one location. We did discuss it. We did tour it. We did discuss it briefly, but without MST's input, we felt it would be premature to make any kind of decision or recommendation. So we bounced it to this meeting. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to Michelle, if she would, tell us about this application. Thank you.
Hello, committee members, staff, and members of the public. I'm Michelle Overmeyer. I'm the Director of Planning and Innovation with MST. We are revamping our system. The public information went out today that we're having our Better Bus Network. It'll be taking effect in December 10th, so our whole system is changing. So throughout this year, we've been taking a close look at our bus stops throughout Monterey County and identifying where we can improve areas. We have several bus stops in the city of Carmel, and my staff noted that these 2 locations that are identified here on item A are not really accessible to the bus. There's vehicles that park there. So we're requesting that no parking zones be installed, red curb, at these 2 locations for the safety of our passengers. And these are residents and workers that use MST in Carmel. It's really difficult for our bus drivers to see passengers that are waiting behind parked cars. And it's really challenging to unload passengers if there's cars blocking the sidewalk. So, no parking zones are best practices for public transit, and that's the reason for this request.
Okay.
Thank you.
So I guess, Chief, you want to reopen it now, I guess, for public comment?
Yeah, sounds like a great idea. So why don't we reopen it to anybody that wants to speak on this particular issue? And Christina, we did note that you have, we remember your question.
Okay. Yeah, my only concern is that's the first block of Carmel where you can do an all-day parking as opposed to just 2-hour limited parking. And so the parking's already so impacted. We don't use our building every day, but that would be my only concern, to lose more parking spots across the street from our building. But I completely understand the problem, and we, on our side of the street where the bus stop is, it's a loading zone that typically does not have a car parked in it. So that probably makes it a lot easier for the bus driver pulling up. But that would be my only negative about removing parking spots.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that would like to speak? Okay, we'll close the public portion. Bob?
Yeah, thank you, Chief. Well, certainly safety of everybody, the vehicles, the buses, the bus riders, the safety is number one, and that's why we're here. That said, Ms. De Maria has a very valid point about parking. Every parking space in Carmel is precious. So there is a tendency to eliminate, or I should say, not remove parking spaces unless there's a clear and compelling reason. Safety is a clear and compelling reason if that's indicated to be truly the case here. Certainly it would be safer if there was no parking there. So the question, I think there's 2 questions here. One is, how much safer would it be without the parking, with the cars parked in between the bus bench and the bus? Second is this just these 2? First it was 1 location, now it's 2 locations, and we have, I don't know, many, probably dozens of other locations citywide where we have parking in front of benches. If this were to be a larger scale, the beginning of a larger scale issue, I'm not saying it's a wrong issue, but that would be more of a more significant impact to the city as a whole. If it's just these 2 particular locations, that's something that's a little bit more obviously manageable. So maybe I could ask the applicant if she could clarify the overall intent, or why these 2 locations as opposed to many potentially other locations.
Well, I think, Bob, can I add on to that? Because I kind of had a similar thought maybe before Michelle goes, so she doesn't have to answer our questions 2 different times. So I think we know the answer as to why these 2 locations. Mm-hmm. That's not really the question. I think the real question is, are there more? And has it been explored if there are more? Because I think we would probably like to know, is there a programmatic approach to this? If there's more in town, maybe we can have MST take a look at a programmatic scale project where maybe these are the only 2, we don't know. But I guess that's more of the question, is not what's the reason for these. I think we understand the reason for these, but are there more in town?
Yeah, I
would say,
yeah, just along those lines, I'm absolutely in favor of understanding what we're really talking about, because if we're going to make a determination on one, are we going to keep talking about it over and over again? So I'd much rather have kind of a policy decision on a much bigger project, kind of system-wide approach rather than a location approach, because I've seen a lot of the bus stops, very few of them have red zones in front of them, and parking is allowed. So there's the question, Michelle, if you could jump back in and maybe help us out with that.
So these two were identified during our inventory this year. There haven't been any others that have been brought to my attention. I think for the most part, most of the bus stops do have red curb or no parking restrictions.
Most, many?
I'm thinking like the ones in residence have like dirt in front of them.
Yeah, they don't. Yeah, the residence ones that I've seen don't. And like I said, without a system-wide.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, thanks, Michelle, for that. I think one of the things when we drove around and looked, there's definitely bus stops in the residential district that just have dirt in front of them. So those are not red.
There's no curb.
Yeah,
correct.
exactly.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I think maybe, I think we're maybe coming close to some sort of motion here. Because again, I'm supportive of the two that you've identified, and maybe the solution is not painting them red, but saying bus parking only from X hours to X hours. And when you know the services are going to end, because at nighttime, those sometimes, especially by the Sunset Center, those spots become very important.
Yes.
So we don't want to make it a no parking zone 24 hours a day. So that may be a solution when and if we decide to do that. But I think I would feel more comfortable knowing that MST had just taken a day, even like a windshield survey, to drive the whole city and see if there's any other, so we can just do it all at once. I don't want us coming back here, in a couple of months saying, oh, we found this other one. That would be my comfort level. I know it's probably not what you want to hear, to go do something else and come back, but that maybe is where I'm going. I don't know if I'm ready to make a whole motion yet, but I want to see what my counterparts here on the committee think.
I guess I'll go next. Yeah, I do think it's really important to, Michelle, we appreciate you did say that you did that inventory, and these seem to be the only two that pop up, but I do appreciate Brandon's concern that if we can confirm that somehow, that's truly, these are just the two, and this is not a growing concern. And the second thing, I really like what Director Swanson said about time limits. If we could say no parking from 8 whatever time the buses are served in that area, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m., whatever the time is, and then allow the parking at night. I think we could make that happen. Would it be an enforcement issue, of course?
Yeah, I guess I would want to know from Michelle, because she's the bus professional here. Do you do that other places, Michelle? I think I've seen that where, bus parking only during a certain time. Does that work?
So for this particular service, like I said, the service change is happening December 10th. So we'll be coming through every 30 minutes between 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. and then every 60 minutes from 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. So if he were to put some restriction, we would want 7 a.m. to 10 p.m.
Right.
Okay. But I guess my question is, that happens, right? That's a thing that you do other places. You put a time restriction for bus only. Is that a practical thing, or is that just completely ludicrous idea to do?
I don't know that that's out of the question. There's no examples that come to mind right away, but it could be possible maybe in downtown Monterey or downtown Salinas.
Okay.
But generally it's just red curb.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, parking spaces, whether it be 4, 3, on these are really, really important in the city of Carmel. And before I move forward or even want to look at it, I'd like to see something in writing that says, here's our bus lines, these are all the things, and this is the only thing we're looking for, or a much broader perspective.
Okay, let me take a stab at this. I'll make a motion that we staff work with MST between now and the next meeting to kind of fine tune. We identify what the issues are. Let's work with them to develop a game plan that works for all and bring it back at the next traffic safety committee meeting, which is probably approximately 3 months from now. And we'll be able to confirm or make a decision at that point. If it does become a more of a global issue or citywide issue, that may require city council approval, but we're not there yet.
Yeah.
So so my motion again is to keep it simple, because I know Evan's trying to keep track of the motion. My motion is staff works with MST and bring this back at the next meeting with a refined game plan.
So continue this item again.
Continue this item.
Yep, okay. Yeah, I would second that.
Okay.
Roll call.
Yeah, roll call on that, because motion is to work with MST, with staff to put together and identify whether or not this is a system-wide issue. So, Bob, or you call the roll. You call the roll, right?
Yvette's the professional roll caller.
Yeah, because I'm clearly not.
She's better at it,
You
yeah.
did a
clearly
fine
not.
job last time, so. Chief Ward,
Aye, yes.
Brandon Swanson,
Aye.
Bob Harari.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, motion carries. The second discussion item is item number B, Carpenter Street, 2 northwest of First Avenue. Consider a request to install a fence along the west side of Carpenter Street for pedestrian safety. And if anybody who got this particular item brought to them would like to give us a rundown.
Bob keeps, I'll do this one because I at least understand it. And just so people on the Zoom know what it is.
Yes, is the applicant Mr.
Yeah, we
Ward?
should just do a quick, one of us should just summarize what it is, but.
Okay, yeah, I'll make a quick summary from my understanding. So I'm getting this a little bit indirectly, so maybe this is why we're here to clarify everything. My understanding is that an applicant who lives on Carpenter North, the west side of Carpenter, north of First Avenue, is requesting kind of a safety fence or safety railing between the travel lanes where the cars go and where the people walk. We do know there is a walkway. It's not a sidewalk per se. It's kind of
It's a DG path.
DG path, a little bit windy, but it is a DG path that's separated off the pavement. And the request is apparently to enhance safety, is to provide a safety railing. That's my understanding of the project. I do have some initial concerns, being that the cost of installation, the maintaining it, the need for it, the precedent setting. So I do have some concerns. But before,
Yeah, we should hear from the public
yeah, I'm
first.
sure I'd like to hear from the applicant first and then the public about, perhaps I'm not completely in understanding of what this project's all about.
So with that said, thank you, Bob. With that said, is the applicant on the Zoom? Okay. Is there anybody in the public that would like to speak on this issue? Okay, hearing none. I guess I'll start. We did our site visit on this one, and while it's windy and it looks like a big tree, kind of would make or lend someone, a pedestrian, to shuffle over a little bit. You wouldn't be required to walk into the street. And there is still an indicated bike lane. So for it to really be a hazard per se, a car would have to leave the roadway to strike a pedestrian or bicyclist, and that's anywhere. So I'm not sure I see the necessity for adding any device at that location.
I agree with everything you said, Chief, and on top of that, it would require an encroachment permit, which this body can't approve anyway. So we would have to refer that up to the city council. But all that being said, regardless if it was the right project, we would do that. But for all the reasons that the chief just pointed out, I agree. I don't see the merits of this project.
Yeah, I completely agree. So with that, I'll make a motion that we deny the request to install the fence along the west side of Carpenter, to northwest of First Avenue.
Second.
Call the roll. May I have a motion?
Chief Ward,
Yes.
Brandon Swanson,
Aye.
Bob Harari.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion is passed.
We're going to move to item number
C.
C. Thank you. Northwest San Carlos Street and 6th Avenue. Consider a request to change a red no parking zone to a yellow commercial loading zone. And so I'll be the one to describe this one, as I have been dealing with our officers, quite frankly, and both business owners on both sides of the street who have something to say. No one can speak to why this particular spot is a red zone. It is a bump out along basically an extension of the walkway on the north side of San Carlos. And really when we looked at it, the complaint from the delivery drivers was that because of the bump out, it's actually better for them to park their trucks to do their unloading, especially the bigger trucks, to do their unloading in that red zone, because it allows more space for traffic to pass on either side. And when we looked at that, that definitely is the case, because if it were parking were allowed there, obviously, if we push them, we keep the red zone and we push them down the street to where they could legally unload, they would be A, blocking in cars, but B, would extend further in into the roadway, narrowing the traffic, now two-way traffic that would have to pass through that area. So
Are we gonna get the map up? The Chief Whip, I think Rob can get the map on the screen, so I think that might be
Yeah,
helpful.
Sebastian, is there any way you can pull from the laptop?
So to continue is essentially we have a lot of the restaurants and would like this change to a loading zone, so the larger trucks can be there and can unload in that section. And we have other folks, other business owners that have said, hey, these trucks parking here blocks the view, and people can't see our business because it's my understanding, based on what the trucks or the delivery folks have said, that they use it for larger trucks, so they deliver to more spots, so they're there a little bit longer than they would be otherwise. So I think, is there anybody that would like to, is there anyone that would like to speak on this issue out in Zoom land?
I don't see anybody's hand raised.
Okay, with that said,
Can we go back to the map?
yeah, as you can see, when they park from the white parking indicator, that people have and can park out to that section all the way out, and you can see that the car is sticking out further than the red zone. So if we change that to a loading only zone, then you obviously have you do have more room. You can see the cars parked on the south side of the roadway, and it's a very busy street, very well parking.
Yeah.
There's never parking. So
Are you ready for our thoughts and comments
Yeah.
now? Did you close public? Okay. So if I understand, if I can wrap my tiny planner brain around this, so deliveries can double park those cars any time of day because they're a delivery vehicle. They can throw on their flashers and effectively be farther out in the street, because there are several restaurants and around this area that are going to take food deliveries or other deliveries. So that's a great angle. So those, as you pointed out, Chief, the bumpers of those cars probably stick out a good at least 2 feet farther into the road. You can just see the parking tees that stick out farther. So what we're doing basically is giving an opportunity for those delivery trucks to be farther off of the street. And I believe that there are rules about what time of day delivery trucks can come into town anyway and deliver. They're not always followed explicitly, but we do have rules about that. I wonder if it would be legal or advisable, if we're going to do this, to put signs in this also to just make it clear whether or not it's the exact hours that are in our code, but out of consideration for the shops that are directly behind this planter, that only certain hours of day can delivery vehicles park there, up until 10 a.m., 8 a.m. to 10 a.m., or I don't know what the right hours are. We may want to explore that a little bit, but I guess if we're gonna go down this road of turning this into a loading zone, I would want to put some hours on that, I think, if we're allowed to do that, and if you guys think that's a good idea.
Thanks, Brendan. I do support this because I think it would be better. It would be safer. It's a simple fix to convert the red painted cobble curb to yellow for the loading zone. It does seem that installation of a sign or two would be prudent. Of course, we'll want to make sure we have the right time frames that match the code and all the requirements. So we want to put that. And I think we should give this a try and monitor it. And I don't see how it would make the situation worse, because certainly the delivery trucks are a common problem. There is a problem today. So this could be a better solution, and hopefully it's the long-term permanent solution. So I think we should give it a shot, monitor it, and
Okay, can I try to make a motion this time?
No.
I'm probably not gonna be as good at it as
No.
you are.
No.
Okay,
You want me to make a motion?
I'll give it a try.
It's your item.
So,
I'm happy.
yeah, go for it if you want. Yeah.
So, thank you for the comment. So I would make a motion, if I understand what Brandon was trying to articulate, is that we change the red curb to a loading-only zone and look at the installing signage to indicate that as well, especially if we can put on the signage the coding or language that matches the code to limit the deliveries to when they're supposed to be delivered per code.
Could I make a suggested friendly amendment to your
Sure.
motion? So, I don't think I would be supportive of saying look at signs. I think the signs have to go in. We just have to look at what the times are. So I would say maybe the motion is actually to install signs with the correct time. I would also suggest maybe I think I heard Bob say something that seems like a good idea. Let's agendize this for the next Traffic Safety Committee as well, for a report back on how it's been working. That'll give us 3 months of testing, I think. 'Cause, I mean, you guys how quickly are you guys gonna get this thing painted, you think? Like this afternoon, probably, right? Because you're so efficient.
By the end of the year?
Explain it as you speak.
Yeah, nice, Rob. They've got it live on their phones, yeah.
Let's say by the end of the year. Or,
Okay. So-
I mean, we got 20 or 30
Yeah, sure.
something other projects going on.
Okay.
Yvette, do you think you got that encapsulated?
So I'm just wondering if the next Traffic Safety Committee is too soon. Maybe we bring it back, in 2 Traffic Safety Committees to
No,
get.
because
Yeah, well-
we do it quarterly, so that's
Yeah.
3 months. I
Okay.
think that's an adequate.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So those would be my 2 asks. If we
Yeah.
definitely put in signs and then
Yeah,
bring
let's
it
do
back.
signs,
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Then I would second that motion.
You guys ready?
Do you got it?
Yeah, could you read
All
back the
right.
motion, please?
Word for word, please.
Sure. Chief Ward,
Just kidding. We're ready
Yes.
for roll call.
Brandon Swanson.
Yes.
Bob Harari.
Abstain. No, yes. Yes.
Thank you, the
No,
motion is
yes.
passed.
Okay, so we will move to item D. We had a request to consider a request for residential permit parking only on Santa Rita between Ocean and 6th Avenue. Is the resident or requester online? Seen none? I guess this is another one of mine. This came to me. One of the residents on the east side of the street was narrow street. They were requesting maybe permit only, especially for a home that was at the corner of Ocean and Torres. I'm sorry, am I in the right place? Ocean and Santa Rita. That essentially the resident didn't have a driveway and only had one spot in front of their house to park, and if that was taken by somebody else, then they wouldn't have their own spot. So the request was setting or requesting residential parking only in that block.
Okay. Well, we did go out to the site and take a look at it. This is a pretty common occurrence here in town, just with the limited amount of parking we have and the narrowing of our streets and trees and all that good stuff. So I know there was some comment about having access down into the property. I didn't see anything specific about, having a real like handicap, like a doctor's note essentially, or some sort of medical condition that, needs specific ADA accessibility and having to be a spot there. In fact, there was, from what I could tell, the only way down onto the site was via a staircase. So I don't know if there are any actual like qualified medical issues that would be, receive special considerations. But if that were the case, maybe they could come back in the future. But since the applicant's not here, I don't think we can hear about that. I would worry about this being a precedent-setting issue. Parking is kind of always up for grabs here in the village. So I don't see enough of a case to support this. But I'm curious what my counterparts think up here.
I concur. I do not see a compelling case to support this request for a special permit parking or resident permit parking.
So this came to me several months ago, and when I met with the resident, it was clear kind of that there seemed to be a very limited issue in the sense that there are very few times in Carmel we would have backups into this area. Events probably, Car Week would probably be the only time that could occur where someone would or a lot of people might park. So I appreciate that parking on the east side of the residence would crowd that street, but like everybody's already said, that is the central issue kind of in most residential streets here in Carmel. So,
ready for a motion?
yeah.
I'll make a motion that we deny.
I'd like to speak as a member of the public.
Oh yeah, by all means, go ahead.
Hi, my name's Paul. I live on Santa Rita Street, south of Ocean Avenue. At this time, I see no need to restrict the on-street parking along Guadalupe when existing parking on private property is not being fully utilized by the residents.
Mr. Lord, are you speaking to item D right now, the Santa Rita parking, or are you speaking at item E, the Guadalupe item?
I'm speaking to the Santa Rita Street.
Okay, I heard you say Guadalupe. So,
I'm sorry, yeah. Okay, Santa Rita. I'll speak on Guadalupe too, please.
Okay,
yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I just wanted to make sure you were hearing us. So please continue. I'm so sorry.
Thank you. So I see no need to restrict parking here. When parking on the private property is not being fully utilized by the residents, the guests, and the contractors. These restrictions along this portion of Santa Rita would likely have an undesirable effect on nearby neighborhoods that already have restricted parking, which was recently put in on the other side of Ocean Avenue along Santa Rita Street. And we already have related problems with that restricted parking. Without further communications to the residents about the problem, the intent of the action, I say that the commission reject this request for the resident parking permit idea. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Lord. Bob?
Anybody else from the public?
Yeah.
Seeing none, I make a motion that we reject this request for resident permit parking only on Santa Rita between the Ocean and 6th, or at the corner.
Second.
Okay, call the roll.
Chief Ward,
Yes.
Brandon Swanson,
Aye.
Bob Harari.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion is passed.
Okay, we'll move on to item E, Guadalupe Street between 7th and Mountain View Avenues. Consider a request to add additional no parking posts.
Which one of you guys is going to explain this one?
Yeah, I'll take it. Rob, if you could get us to that street first, so we can really, I think we really need to visualize this one. So Guadalupe, 7th to Mountain View. Yeah, let's back up just a hair. There's Forest Theater on the right.
It's on the left, Bob.
That's,
He switched.
now it's on the
Turned
left.
around.
I turned it around.
I know. You're welcome.
That's on the right again.
Oh, wow, look at that. Okay.
Okay, for those who are watching, if Rob, if you could kind of scroll us down the street, you can see that this segment of street, there's a wider area and a narrower area. And the wider area seems to have sufficient space for parking. Parking is precious here, being so close to Forest Theater. Like that segment looks not so bad, but when we go back, if we turn around and go back up the street, I think past that tree on the left. Yeah, it says, wait a second, it says no parking from there to,
All the way up to the corner by where that white van is.
I'm disoriented. I thought that's where we wanted to.
We
have
talked
no
about
parking.
putting one in the middle so it's more clear,
Yeah.
so.
Oh, that's right, that's
Yeah.
right. Thank you. Yes, that's correct. There is no parking on this west side of the street today, but people are still parking there, and that makes that narrower road even just not really passable for, especially for an emergency vehicle. So, our
And
thought.
that area, Bob, just to be clear for those that are looking, is if on the screen where the words Guadalupe Street say, the white lettering, it's sort of directly across from that, if you will, across road, that's the area that we're talking about, that people still park there despite the fact that there's on the south side, this no parking sign that points north, and on the north side, a no parking sign that points south.
Right.
Supposedly cutting off that whole area for no parking, but in the middle, there's just no sign.
Right.
Yeah, okay.
Right, so we're not removing any parking, we're simply better posting the sign so that people are more, maybe more aware that no parking is permitted.
Yeah, engineering a barrier from parking there also.
Yes, yeah, so I believe that putting in another no parking post right in the middle would enhance the situation, couldn't hurt.
Well, can I ask, was this a request from a member of the public to add additional no parking posts, or was this something that we came up with on our own? Because I wasn't clear about that, if this was like someone wants us to put even more down the street.
It was just for us to look at parking.
Someone asked us to take a look at it, okay. Because so I wasn't sure if the request from the public was to add additional no parking zones.
Right, that's correct.
Or if their request was for us to look at doing what we're probably gonna suggest, putting a post in the middle. Because I don't know if I would be supportive of adding more no parking zones on the street, but I'm supportive of clarifying where there is no parking currently.
And certainly it would, no harm done to add one more post, like we talked about, and monitor, see if that solves the problem.
Mm-hmm.
And if not, we come back at another meeting and look at the situation again. But I think that's going to be an improvement.
So I thought we were looking at just this area, not the entire street. Rob, can you push back down the street? Because I was talking to a resident, and I think they said they lived on Guadalupe, near the Forest Theater, who said when people park, which would be on the right side of the street, on this meaning the north side, I imagine, right? Or would that be
West
the west side?
West side of the street.
West.
They can't get out of their driveway. So you see those trucks there, the folks were saying, hey, they can't get out of their driveways. So anyway, we're not talking about that area, we're talking about further up. Is that my understanding?
Well, thank you. That's kind of was my question too. I wasn't sure where this request came from. If it was staff initiated, hey, do you guys want to go see if we need to clarify our existing no parking zones, or if someone from the public said, hey, we want you to make more no parking zones on Guadalupe. I still wouldn't, I will say if that was the request, this situation that we're looking at right now exists all over town as well. It maybe takes a few extra turnouts, but if we start putting no parking zones across the street from every driveway, we're going to lose a lot of parking. in the residential areas. Now, certainly in some cases where the road completely narrows and you cannot get a vehicle through,
Right.
I would be supportive of no parking. We have done that in other places, I think even on Santa Rita Street, just near this. But in this case, just looking at this picture, there's almost a full-size truck parked there, and I'm sure you could still get a vehicle by there.
If I may, I do believe this request came back several months ago, and I do believe there was a linkage to Santa Rita where we did install a number of additional no parking areas, not just the posts, but the actual no parking areas, and that seemed to be working pretty well. And that's the other side of Forest Theater, I guess.
No.
Oh, sorry, sir. Let us just finish for a
excuse me.
second.
So I thought there was a general request to look at this whole segment of street. And when the committee looked at this the other day, we saw that certainly there's that concern where we talked about where we needed that additional post to make it more obvious that there's no parking on that side. And that we didn't see any compelling reason to add additional no parking posts along, like where the picture is shown and on the, is that the southerly part of Guadalupe. It's not an ideal situation, but it's certainly representative of many other residential streets we have across town.
Mm-hmm.
So therefore, we were focusing on the one additional no parking post as opposed to adding additional spots.
Well, maybe we can hear from the public.
Yeah,
and see.
absolutely.
Now I
Okay.
think we have
Okay.
the committee
Absolutely.
has an explanation
Okay.
of what we're dealing with.
Okay.
Is there anybody out there in the public that would like to speak on this?
Yes, I'd like to speak.
Yeah. Go ahead, Mr. Lord.
Yeah, so on Santa Rita Street, we have recently received no parking signs. Santa Rita Street is on the other side of Forest Theater. That has resulted in new additional parking problems for the residents, basically less parking for all our needs. I say that adding additional no parking areas on Guadalupe would exacerbate the parking problems in the neighborhood. And for events at Forest Theater as well. I can understand restricting parking in that narrow upper portion of Guadalupe along the fence with Forest Theater. Obviously, parking there is inappropriate. I don't think adding signs is the best idea posts. I think that if Forest Theater is city property, perhaps you could put signs on the fence instead of posts. I did notice the other day, and I was kind of confused by the existing posts that are there, restricting that parking along the upper narrow portion of the Forest Theater fence. Those parking posts, if I recall, don't have the little directional arrows on them that say no parking between this sign and the other sign. So when you read the signs, the posts that are there, it looks like it means like right there where the post is, you can't park. So I can understand why some people would be confused about where exactly the no parking zone is. So by maybe adding arrows to the existing signs would help, or like I said, putting signs along the fence. But additional posts, I think, are just going to create a hazard on a narrow street. On the lower portion of Guadalupe along the Forest Theater fence, where those silver trucks were shown in the photo, I don't see a need to add any restricted parking zones there. There's adequate space for parking. The residents will still have access in and out of their driveways. Those trucks that you see there look to be contractors during the day. That's expected, but I don't think that is permanent parking or daily parking in that area. When I go by most often during the daytime hours, those parking spaces are wide open. It's only when there's contractors using them or when Forest Theater is busy do I see those parking spaces full. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lord.
All right, well, I'll finish off my comments, and thank you, Mr. Lord, for your comments. I think that tracks with what we were talking about, recognizing that we probably don't need to add any more no parking zones. That upper area is already a no parking zone. I do think we need to clarify it. When we were out there doing our walk, I did notice an arrow on the northernmost post, and it looked like the southern post.
I thought they both had the arrows.
Yeah, had an arrow, but I think it was pretty faded. So one thing we could do is repaint those arrows, make them more clear.
Sure.
And it's an interesting proposition about, you know, having the fence there and putting a no parking sign on the fence versus putting a post in the middle. I don't know what you and Rob think about
Well,
that.
I agree, but from a sign ordinance standpoint, is that okay with?
Yeah,
planning?
as long as they're, you know, they're not, that we have, I can help you with that, the size, you know, it's, you know, a certain.
Any problem? Sure.
Okay.
In fact, that's probably a betterment. as
It's
Mr.
one less
Lord said.
impediment in the road.
Yeah, one less impediment in the
Yeah.
road, so.
The only thing I would say to that is it doesn't result, if we're just saying no parking, if someone parks there, it blocks the street, then we still have the problem. If we engineer a control and actually put something there, they can't park there, and now the street remains open, and it's not an enforcement issue, and we're not responding to a problem that's already shut off the street.
Yeah.
So you would prefer the post?
I would prefer the post.
Okay.
But
Rob, can you put that back up on the screen? Because it's probably just my memory, but I don't know if they're, I mean.
But I like the sign, let me clarify. I love the sign idea.
Yeah.
Because to me, the post with the little arrows, I'm, as everybody knows, I'm new to the community. So I wouldn't have, even if I was visiting there, have spotted that, and other than going, oh, that means.
Most of the time, these posts are closer together.
Yeah.
This one's a long stretch, so it's a little bit unusual to have. And that's why they kind of get forgotten.
Yeah.
See
Yeah.
the little, it has the arrow.
That one has the arrow, yeah.
Yeah, but it is kind of a long distance.
So what I was looking at, you know, to
There's the arrow
the
there.
chief's point about engineering a control, Rob, can I just look down the street? Thanks. Is, you know, it's pretty narrow there, so, you know, I just don't want to, other than a post, I don't know if I'd want to put anything out there than a post, because then you start actually maybe even creating a hazard, somebody clipping their mirror on something as they drive by because it's so narrow already. Maybe it's, you know, post and some signs. Because I do recognize that any vehicle parked there causes an immediate, very serious traffic situation where an emergency vehicle cannot get through there.
Yeah, I like the idea, thank you, Brad. I like the idea of adding signs further up along that, because to me, it was very clear that you couldn't park there. A normal, rational, reasonable person wouldn't try to park further up, but where that little cutout starts to happen, where the roadway starts going to the east, you're like, that someone could easily go, oh, I'll take my ticket and park there and still create that problem.
Okay.
So I think it is a good idea to maybe extend it up further, a sign or two on the fence.
Okay. Well, I would make a motion then that we would install a new, at minimum, post to clarify the no parking zone that currently exists on the north side of Guadalupe between 7th and Mountain View. Not add any additional no parking zones, and possibly add signage where appropriate in working with Public Works and the Planning Department to create appropriate and legal signs within our sign ordinance.
I would approve a reduced motion. That's not so wordy, but
Go for it.
in essence, I do support that motion.
Okay.
Yes.
Let's call a roll.
Chief Ward,
Yes.
Brandon Swanson,
Aye.
Bob Harari.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion is passed.
Okay, we'll move to item F. We're going to review possible locations for a Carmel Rotary sign at the entrance into the city, such as on Carpenter Street or Rio Road. And I'll kind of start the discussion on this. So I went into the code and the sign code, and what it looks to me is that as a traffic safety committee, the only thing we're looking at is where they could post a sign that would be safe and not block and create a hazard. That's really all the only purview we have in this whole matter, because obviously the signs would have to go through the council process to place a sign anyway. So With that in mind, we went out, we did locate a location on Rio Road that at least I was comfortable with. And maybe someone else can explain it a little better on where exactly it is.
Well, thanks, thanks, Chief. And you made the perfect point that I was going to make about, our purview here is traffic safety. We're not a design review board. We also don't approve encroachments, which is what this would require. So this is an application made to the city by the Rotary. We are processing the application, taking it through the due process. So ultimately, if they continue with their application, the city council is going to be the one that approves or denies this sign location. We are simply an advisory body to the city council on the safety aspects of the sign going in here. So it's not really we're not weighing in on the merits of Carmel Rotary having a sign, and certainly there's things to consider for city council. They're going to have to think about precedent setting and design and size of the signs, but that's really not our bailiwick here. So, we visited this site here on Rio, and we also visited a site on the north end of town, just where the city begins on Carpenter, right near the bots dots. You can see the two little dots right there. And so I think in my opinion, both sites are safe. We targeted, if the city approves these, having the signs near the bus stop location, because there's already a host of signs there. You're not creating a new visual nuisance. You're not creating a new something in the public right of way that maybe is going to cause a traffic issue or taking up pedestrian. You can see there's pedestrian here in the bike lane or fog lane or whatever. We're not recommending putting anything in that. It would be near where there's already appurtenances like benches and signposts. So we did target those two areas, but that's as far as I want to go on it, because we're not really diving into the merits of a new sign or the precedent of it, just whether or not it would be safe to do so.
Very well said, Brandon. The only thing I would also add is there's many places we could install if the council approves this sign installation. There are many places you can install a sign that would still be safe. I think part of this committee's review was where would it make sense. It wouldn't make sense to put this in the middle of Ocean Avenue. It wouldn't make sense to put this along the scenic. What makes sense is at the entry of town, along with other signs, as Brandon mentioned. So here we have a MST bus stop right at the edge of the city limits on Rio, going into town, and there's a similar case of another bus stop on Carpenter, southbound, heading into town. So it's almost like two peas in a pod, two similar situations. Very safe.
High traffic areas. That was one of the things we looked at as a traffic committee. We were looking at the request to get as much visibility for a sign, and these are the two of the highest traffic areas we could think of where there's people in and out all day long, again, by bus stops.
Right. So if the council were to approve it, I think we would recommend, based on the motion, that these would be recommended locations.
Yeah, we're not recommending
Not recommending yes or no. We're recommending put them here if you're going to do it.
Yep.
Well said. Is there anybody out in Zoom land that would like to speak on this issue? Okay, thank you. I don't know if we need a motion other than to say that we've come up with two locations that would work.
I think if somebody wants to make a motion for a recommendation,
I think we should. So when it goes to
move our
council, we can say
recommendation.
that this committee made a motion of some sort.
Okay.
You guys made fun of my motion last time.
Your turn.
You're so good at it.
So long. All right. Well, then I would move that we make a recommendation to City Council, if they are inclined to approve Rotary sign in town, that the locations proposed of Rio Road by the bus stop and Carpenter by the bus stops, as we've talked about today, would be appropriate locations purely from a traffic safety perspective.
I would second that motion.
Let's call the roll.
Chief Ward,
Aye.
Brandon Swanson,
Aye.
Bob Harari.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion is passed.
Okay, that concludes all of our discussion items to the committee. Do we have future meeting topics that we'd like to add to the next one?
There was one we got today.
Came up this morning about a speeding issue on Rio and Santa Lucia. Request for a 25-mile-an-hour sign.
What's the speed limit there right now? Oh, okay. It's just to post the sign.
Is it on Santa Lucia or on Rio? On Rio.
I don't have any agenda items, but, you know, Mr. Byrne brought up an interesting point earlier. I'm wondering what the committee's appetite is to go to a more regular time, you know, every third Thursday of the month. And we don't have to decide that day right now, but I would be in favor of that. I think it makes it easier for us. It makes it easier for our staff that has to prepare agendas and get it up on the website. They know it's coming, and it makes it better for the public. I would also say maybe we don't do it during lunchtime just for, not for my, I mean, I'm fine, I don't need to eat lunch, but I think it does maybe preclude other people from the public from coming if they have lunch plans. I know Mr. Byrne has a standing lunch date every day with his wife that he talks about, and
Right.
it was nice enough to come today for a little bit. So maybe we don't do it during lunch and we have a regularly scheduled meeting.
Right. Going back in time, but COVID kind of changed things up where we kind of became a little more inconsistent. But pre-COVID, it was always on a Wednesday morning at 10 o'clock, pretty close to every quarter. So I would recommend we go to once every 3 months, plus or minus, you know, the date. And on a Wednesday, I think seemed to fit our, tentative. Let's tentatively, because this is not making a motion.
Wednesdays don't work for our department head meetings. Unless we push it to the afternoon. But I think you have other meetings
He needs to
in the
hold,
afternoon.
he should do my calendar. Just
Yeah.
kidding.
So,
Just kidding.
If only
so if we were
Zoom
to
could
do
pick
Wednesday, it would have to be earlier at 9 or
Well, I think
11.
let's not try to hash that out right now. I think
Yeah,
but let's just agree that we want to set a regular time. I don't like the plus or minus, Bob. I think we need to set.
Yeah, I agree. I
Yeah, I agree.
Brandon.
But we're not
I
going to set
like
it today.
Yeah.
But a regular time, every
Yeah.
3 months,
Yep. Okay,
consistently.
I agree. Let's do it.
Yeah, let's-
agree.
We'll work it out between our 3 calendars,
Yeah.
but
Okay.
and then we'll advertise that out so people know what's going on. And the benefit of doing that is on our website we have like the Planning Commission, Forest and Beach Commission. It says what day those committees meet, so we can put that on our website and people will know.
Okay. Before we adjourn, Mr. Byrne did have a fair comment about it's not posted in the normal fashion on the city website. That's because this informal committee is not, we don't prepare written staff reports. It's not in the Novus system like the others. Therefore, it is on the city's meetings page at the very bottom, below where most meetings are posted.
Actually,
Go ahead.
sorry, Bob.
Sure.
Actually, the last couple times we've done this, since we took it over, we've been putting it up on the city's meeting agenda page on there with the Zoom link so people could attend. And actually, the day ago, I worked with Nova and we did put it up there. So it has been up there for a day. It was, I know you
Right, but
guys.
it's at the bottom, it's
it's
below all the,
It was at the bottom, but
we.
we moved it up to the actual links.
Oh,
with
we
the
did?
agenda. Yeah, we did it a day ago
Oh,
because
okay.
that's the way we've been doing it the last 2 traffic safety
Okay,
committees.
so we should continue to do that.
We will continue to do that. That's definitely the best way to do it so people have access to that
Right.
Zoom link.
But if we post it at least 72 hours in that manner, then maybe that gets the word out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yep.
And do we do constant contact?
we do. Yeah.
Okay, so that part went out. Okay, so, I mean, we're trying
Yeah,
to
we
keep
will
the public
absolutely.
informed
I
the
think
best we
that was a
can.
really good point.
Yep.
And I think we have COVID and turnover and things like that. I think we're in a much better
Yeah.
place.
Yeah.
as
Yeah,
a
because just
city.
because we don't have to doesn't
Yeah.
mean we shouldn't. I mean, we definitely want the public to come, and this will be a more fruitful meeting if we have more members of the public coming. So that's on us to make sure they know that it's happening.
And also, after 3 months, some of the issues we get 4 or 5 months ago kind of become like, what?
Yeah.
So a little bit, gets a little foggy.
Yep.
Well done. Great. We'll work on that and we'll put something together and
Okay.
make it regular. So with nothing else, I will move to adjourn at 12:49.
All right.
Fantastic.
Thanks.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, everybody.
Good meeting. Now I got my bullets with Chip.